sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Thursday, May 8th. Thanks, everyone, for watching on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And speaking of Playground, 3 tasty reasons to visit the Rail, which is in Playground Mondays as of 4 p.m. Dive into 2 lobster tails for just $22, served with rice, veggies, garlic butter, and a warm biscuit. Thursdays from 4 p.m., sink your teeth into their Surf and Turf special, an 8-ounce New York strip with shrimp, fries, and pepper sauce for only $19. Fridays from 11:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., enjoy any burger sandwich, pizza, or main for just $7. Certain conditions apply. It's unbelievable. All you need is a valid Playground player's card, and it's free. Deals this good are worth the trip only at the Rail inside the Playground complex. Visit playground.ca for details. Also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. Driven to be different, a top fleet employer in Canada. Again, just ask Forbes. Without further ado, we're going to continue on our theme of report cards, which we have over the past couple of days. This is day 3 that I'm tackling report cards. Day 1, I started with the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, Nick Suzuki, in which Brian Wilde had given him an A+. I gave him an A and docked him just for face-off percentage because he is 5, 6, 7, 8% behind many top 2 centermen in the league. And then Brian, I was able to convince him. And so he gave him an A as well. Day number 2, which was yesterday with Craig Button, TSN hockey analyst and director of scouting. We gave a report card for Kent Hughes, general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. Craig gave him an A+. I was about to dock him a half point there for not adding an insurance policy at the trade deadline, because other than that, I was on board with everything that he did. But you know what? I didn't want Craig to be mad at me 2 days in a row. So I decided to keep it at an A+ as well. Today, day 3 of report cards, we're going to take a look at Montreal Canadiens coach Marty St. Before we do, once again, in all transparency, this podcast was pre-recorded a little bit earlier in the day, which is something that we do more often than not, I would say, in the summer months. But during the hockey season, obviously, we don't do all that much of it. But with the playoffs here and the Stanley Cup Finals and a game at 7 o'clock, which is probably over by the time you're watching this between Carolina and Washington, unless there's overtime, of course, and the 9:30 game tonight between Vegas and the Edmonton Oilers. So it gives us a chance to be able to watch our games and do our work at the same time here. So once again, pre-recorded. One of the one of the things that was swirling earlier today was that the Anaheim Ducks were going to hire Joel Kenville to be their next head coach. And by the time you're watching this, it's probably official. And, for more on that, let's bring in from the Sick Podcast, The Eye Test, one of their co-hosts, along with Jimmy Murphy. I bring in Pierre McGuire, who's my co-host on all Habs post-game shows right here on the Sick Podcast. Pierre, how are you?
I'm excellent, Tony. Very nice to visit with you.
Once again, very nice to visit with you as well, Pierre. At the time of this recording, the imminent announcement of Joel Kenville's hiring is not yet official, but we can take it to the bank, Pierre?
Yeah, as far as I know. I've texted with Joel. I haven't had a response yet. This is something that I was made aware of around 10 o'clock this morning. I'm not surprised. I know they did a lot of due diligence. The Samueli family, the ownership group in Anaheim, has spent a lot of time asking a lot of questions about Joel over the last couple of weeks. I know that they had contract negotiations or discussions probably over the last couple of weeks. And here's what people don't know about. Everybody just takes it for granted that they played together in Hartford, Pat Verbeek and Joel Quenneville. Their relationship actually started when Pat was playing in New Jersey as a rookie, and Joel was one of the older statesmen when the team had moved from Colorado, where they were the Rockies, to New Jersey. So there was a relationship there. And then they were, obviously teammates in Hartford. And then when I was coaching the Hartford Whalers, Pat was our captain, and Joel Quenneville was our coach in the American Hockey League in Springfield. So they knew each other from that point of view as well. They lived near one another in Connecticut. So there's always been this tie-in between the two of them. That's a team, if you look at it, Tony, and you do a tail of the tape, that's a team that looks so much like the 2009 Chicago Blackhawks that Joel took over when Dale Talon hired him. And, you think about it, Leo Carlson, Trevor Zegras, Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, Troy Terry. That's a lot of young firepower. Then you look on the back end, Owen Zellweger, Jackson Lacombe, Pavel Minchikov, and a second-round pick from the 2020 draft, Ian Moore, who is a tremendous player at Harvard. He just signed with them. So there's another one. He's got all these young guys he can mold. And, this is a thing that I don't think gets nearly enough credit, because obviously there was the dark cloud from the Chicago stuff, and there was a cloud there, and deservedly so. He created the standards that the Florida Panthers are still living with today. I know that they had a different coach, Andrew Burnett, after him, and then I know Andrew got let go and Paul Maurice came in. But if you were to talk to most of the players that are there, they'll tell you all this stuff in Florida started to change when Joel Quenneville went in as a head coach.
It's funny, Pierre, because as you were saying that, I'm on Hockey DB, and I'm taking a look at Joel Quenneville's coaching record, and I'm taking a look at when he took over from the Chicago Blackhawks. He had been the head coach. Of course, he started off his coaching in the National Hockey League as an assistant for the Quebec Nordiques, Colorado Avalanche for a couple of seasons. From there, head coach with the St. Louis Blues for about 7.5 seasons or so. Makes his way as the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche for 3 seasons, and then makes his way to Chicago in the offseason, of course, of 2008, and coaches the Chicago Blackhawks. And by the way, leads them to 3 Stanley Cup wins in 2009, 2010, in 2012, 2013, and 2014, 2015. Pierre, the first thing I did when I went on his Hockey DB was to take a look at the age of Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews when he was coaching them, to see at what age they were, because we know the Anaheim Ducks are a young team. They got a beautiful future ahead of them. I think Martin Madden Jr. and the rest of the staff have done a really good job with the draft over the years. And to see, is the right age, are these players, are they the right age for Quenneville? And did he have a track record with players of that age? And Kane and Toews were 21 years old, Pierre, in 2009. So this makes a lot of sense.
Look at people. I've heard people say, oh, he's 66 years old. Scotty Bowman's 91, Tony. And I'm telling you right now, if you put him on an NHL bench tomorrow, he'd kick the bejesus out of most of the guys he's coaching against. In coaching, it doesn't matter. Surround yourself with people that can run the proper practices, but the coaches that run and manipulate the benches, those guys, their age doesn't matter. Joel Quenneville can still coach in this league. The game has not passed him by. I'm so glad you did that research on his Hockey DB. Here's the other thing. People forget this. Joel got in the coaching business as a player assistant coach with Newfoundland in the American Hockey League. The head coach at the time was Mark Crawford. When Mark Crawford went to Quebec, he brought 2 people with him, Jacques Martin and Joel Quenneville. They all went to Colorado when the team went there. And I can tell you right now, as coach in the league, those guys won the cup, and Jacques left. He went to Ottawa. Jacques left. So in the middle of the season, Jacques left to go to Ottawa. Quenneville was there, and there was a lot of heavy lifting because the other assistant coach had gone. So Joel not only has 3 Stanley Cups as a head coach, he's got 1 as an assistant as well, and nobody wants to talk about that.
Fantastic stuff, Pierre. Very, very quickly, if we can, what are you hearing on Rick Tocchet?
Well, Pittsburgh would be crazy not to interview him. I've heard Boston's been very intrigued by Rick Tocchet, so I think there's a ball in the water there with Boston. I think there's one with Pittsburgh as well. And I don't know what Seattle's going to do. There's a relationship there with he and Ronnie Francis from playing in Pittsburgh together in the 92 and 93 seasons. So I would imagine there will be no shortage of suitors on Rick, maybe even Philadelphia, even though they might go in a different direction, which I understand, maybe with a college coach. But if Rick wants to get back coaching, he's going to have an opportunity to coach.
Before we get to the report card on Marty St. Louis, the Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for summer. With only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12. In grocery stores all around the province of Quebec, ultra light, ultra refreshing. Also brought to you in part by Fruiterie de Lard, a family-run business and mainstay in the LaSalle community since 1995. They're proud to continue offering the same fresh foods and flavors that they have for the past 30 years. From fresh fruits and produce delivered daily to an ever-expanding assortment of deli meats, cheeses, and sandwiches, you'll find personalized service from Tasso and his son and family, and friendly faces that make you feel like family every time you enter Fruiterie de Lard in LaSalle since 1995. Pierre, it's report card time, and it's for Marty St. Louis. And we put something together that we'll bring up, and by all means, these are just some of the things that, just off the top of my head, Pierre, and I'm sure you have 1,000 things that you can add. So I'll go through them very quickly, and then we'll tackle them individually. All right? Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll start with this. Habs went from 76 points a year ago, 28th in the NHL, to 91 points this past season, 17th in the NHL. That was 5th last in the NHL standings last season to making the playoffs this season. The Canadiens' power play went from 17.5% a year ago, which was 27th in the league, to 20.1% this past season, which was 21st in the league. Their penalty kill went from 76.5% a year ago, 24th in the NHL, Pierre, to 80.9% this past season, 9th in the NHL. Their goal differential went from minus 49 a year ago to minus 18 this past season. I let Leighton Hudson play his game. Found a role for Josh Anderson. Players gave everything they had for him. He helped Cole Caulfield become a complete player, and he improved the defensive system and structure as the season went on. Pierre, these are just things off the top of my head. Let's tackle one by one, and in ending, I'll ask you if there's other things that I missed out on. Is that cool?
Very cool.
Okay. The improvement from 76 points to 91 points, Pierre. It's an improvement of 15 points in the standings. I'm wondering what your projection was, Pierre, in terms of points for the Canadiens this season. And what did you think of, in the end, finishing with 91 points?
I thought they'd have a 10-point increase. So the fact that they were 15 points better is substantial. Part of why I think they had that substantial increase was Jakub Dobiš in the middle part of the year, who played tremendously well for them when they went on that run during the holiday season. That made a big difference for them. Right there, that's about 10 points of difference. When you look at the teams they were playing, Florida, Tampa, Colorado, murderer's row of games, not easy. They found a way to get through that, and I think Dobiš helped them a lot through that, but that's a significant improvement. I thought they'd improve by 10 points, 5 games basically in the standings, but they found a way to improve by more. That's significant.
Pierre, Jeff Gordon was hired late in November 2021. He hired Kent Hughes mid-January 2022. They relieved Dominic Ducharme of his duties in early February and hired Marty St. Louis to be the interim coach. The Canadiens started a rebuild 3.5 years ago. 3.5 years later, they went from last in the NHL, 5th last in the NHL. Last year, again, 5th last in the NHL. And this past season to 17th in the NHL and making the playoffs. Pierre, how difficult is it to do the kind of rebuild that they did and to make the playoffs 3.5 years later?
Really difficult. Really, really difficult. So there are a couple things that they deserve credit for and some other people deserve credit for. One, the Nick Suzuki trade with Vegas was mammoth. They had nothing to do with that. That was done by the previous regime. The acquisition of Samuel Montembeault, very significant for them because he was a waiver pickup. That was significant for the organization long term.
Also the previous regime, by the way. Continue.
Exactly. I'm sticking with previous regime.
Yes.
I should preface that. Cole Caulfield drafting was not from this regime. That was from the previous regime. So pretty significant. And this is where it goes to their regime. You cannot say enough about where Lane Hudson is right now. You cannot say enough about that. That's on them. That's a second-round pick that's just phenomenal. They chose Slafkovsky first overall. They're not going to be mistaken on that. That's a really good move, and you see every game the kid plays, when he's moving his feet, he gets better and better all the time. So from them to have made that move from 5th last to 17th in the league, that is substantial. Part of it goes to the previous regime, part of it goes to their regime, and part of it goes to the coaching staff that Marty St. has put together.
If I can, I would add one to the previous regime and one to the current regime, if I may, Pierre.
Yeah.
The previous regime responsible for drafting of Caden Gooley, and the current regime, and which one am I forgetting now? Acquiring Mike Matheson via trade.
Yeah, the Mike Matheson one we'll get to, is because I see the list that you put up. So I'm going to address the Mike Matheson thing as we go forward, but all very good points. And the other thing I would say is the Alex Carrier acquisition was as substantial as the Cam Fowler acquisition in St. Louis. There were two major acquisitions of what most people perceived as depth defensemen in the league that made significant differences for their team. St. Louis, Cam Fowler; Montreal, Alex Carrier. That's on their regime.
So on this list, I have let Lane Hudson play his game, and another one I have is found a role for Josh Anderson. And I guess we can tie those two players into the special teams, Lane Hudson for the power play and Josh Anderson for the penalty kill. The power play, Pierre, you told us Lane Hudson will be quarterback in that power play. He'll be special. I guess you were not surprised that power play went from 27th to 21st, from 17.5% to 20.1%. However, I might add that some members of the organization still feel that power play could be a lot better.
I'm not part of the organization, but I'm disappointed in that number. I am. And part of it was that at the end of the year, it tailed off significantly. And at the start of the year, they didn't have him on the first power play. They had Matheson on the first power play. So I thought when the season started, and I've said it on many other shows, that it would work at 23% this year. That's where I thought their power play should be, realistically, to go from 17.5 to 23. I missed by 3% or 3 points, 3%. Yeah. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just going to say I think going forward, that will be functioning in between 25 and 27%. That'll put them in the top 10 in the league every year. Wow. And that's where it should be. So part of it's what you said, Lane Hudson. Part of it's, obviously Cole Caulfield. Part of it's a playmaking Suzuki. Part of it is obviously the slot area presence of Slafkovsky. And part of that this year was Patrick Laine. You got to be fair and call. Patrick wasn't very good 5-on-5, but Patrick was very good on the power play for most of the season.
Pierre, if the power play percentage left you on your appetite, I would imagine that you were very pleased with the Canadiens penalty kill that went from 76.5% to 80.9%. They went from 24th in the league a year ago to 9th in the NHL this past season.
Gigantic, and it's because of the smart thing that you put on the paper here. Found a role for Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson became an elite penalty killer in the league, as did Jake Evans, as did Christian Dvorak. And you could see even Nick Suzuki. There were times when he was an elite penalty killer for this team. Michael Matheson thrived, and this is where I was going on the Matheson thing, Tony. Michael Matheson thrived in matchup situations and penalty kill situations. And big reasons why is he wasn't stressed out for being the quarterback of the number one power play. So Michael Matheson was a big part of this penalty kill, improving the way it did. And the acquisition of Alex Carrier helped change the penalty kill as well. And I can't say enough about David Savard and what David Savard was able to do on the penalty kill. So it's a conglomeration of probably 7 or 8 guys that really helped change that. And let's also remember, too, in order to have a good penalty kill, you got to have good goaltending. And I don't think the goaltending hurt Montreal this year at all.
Their goal differential went from -49 a year ago to -18 this past season. And Pierre, if we take a look at the way the team played defense, especially in the first month of the season, probably in the first 2.5 months of the season overall, if they would have got out of the gate a little faster, you probably would have saw them, who knows, maybe hit an even number in terms of goal differential. But if there's an area for improvement next year, Pierre, you'd have to think is having a better training camp and having a better start.
Absolutely. Again, this is a tremendous stat. And Tony, you and I have talked about this. I know you've been in the media 22 years. We've talked about this from before you got in the media. Goal differential is one of those only numbers that matters year after year after year, because it's a true read on where you are in terms of manufacturing offense and where you are when it comes to defending. It's the only true read. Expected goals are kind of, they're out there, and this stat doesn't lie. So this is a stat that's important. So going from minus 49 to minus 18 is substantial. I would say this: if they're not a plus goal differential next year, I'd be really disappointed, Tony. Really, really disappointed.
Pierre, as someone who took care of game planning and strategy for several years behind the bench, and what can you tell us? What happened with the way this team played, especially in the first month of the season, where their defensive zone coverage, it didn't look like the guys had a clue.
They didn't have a clue. They were caught between playing straight man-to-man and playing support mode man-to-man. Guys weren't communicating all. I watch their games and say, there's a bad switch call. And the reason why it's a bad switch call, nobody's talking to one another. The communication was abysmal. And then I think the other thing is the neutral zone was too loose. So when you're too loose in the neutral zone, Tony, it allows the other team easy access into your zone. They don't have to dump and chase. They can carry in an established cycle, or they can carry in and establish transition opportunities. So Montreal got better. Their defensive zone coverage actually got better when their neutral zone coverage got better. And then they started taking away time and space better. There are certain areas on the ice where you cannot give people room. From the top of the circle to the icing line is really an important area. You got to close quick. You got to take away time and space. You got to stick and pin. It's pretty simple. It's not hard stuff. The hard part is don't take penalties when you're clearing the crease. Montreal had a hard time establishing that early in the year. I think Stéphane Robidas, as the season went along, found a way to communicate with his players, and they became much better at it.
Pierre, as good as Lane Hudson is, and we all know that he's unbelievable, I think at the same time, as much as the Canadiens are lucky to have him, I think he was lucky to play for a coach like Marty St. even a defense coach like Stéphane Robidas. We saw several games where Lane made rookie mistakes on the defensive end, maybe at times lost the physical mismatch, at times maybe was burnt because he was pinching, probably the wrong play selection at the wrong time. But we never saw him benched after a mistake. And we've seen players, whether rookies or veterans, benched after mistakes, punished after mistakes, scratched after mistakes, sat out after mistakes. And Lane Hudson would not be the first rookie that would watch some games from the press box so that he can learn from above or even give his body a break. The Canadiens played him every single game. As a matter of fact, as the season went on, they played him even more, to the point where I think in the last playoff game, I think he finished with 27 minutes or something like that. And every moment I thought was a learning moment. Stéphane Robidas would go by and would always explain and would always give the pat on the back. I thought they made Lane Hudson play his game, Pierre. It's
the Bowman School of Higher Learning. When he drafted Phil Housley in Buffalo, Phil Housley was playing as an 18-year-old in the Buffalo Auditorium, which was a tiny rink, and Phil wasn't a big guy. And one of the messages Scotty told Phil was, go out there and play the way I saw you play at South St. Paul High School. Turn yourself loose. You're going to be a marquee player for this team as long as I'm here. So he never benched him. He turned him loose. He allowed him to grow. He allowed him to play. It's what happened in New York when Brian Leetch left Boston College to go play for the New York Rangers. It was the same thing under Roger Nielsen. It was the same thing under Mike Keenan. That's people that have been around the game understand that there's not too many guys that are artistic like Lane Hudson is, or Brian Leetch is, or was, or Phil Housley was. Those guys really matter. They're game breakers. They're franchise players, as our good friend Maxime Lapierre likes to say. So Lane Hudson grew. There's no question about it. And here's the last part of it, Tony, without being too long-winded. No team in the NHL, not one team in the NHL knew Lane Hudson better than Montreal. And the reason why they knew Lane Hudson so well, Nicky Bobroff spent a ton of time in the USHL watching the United States National Team Development Program. That's number one. Number two, this is really important. Lane Hudson played at Boston University. Jeff Gorton's son, Jack, plays at Boston University. Kent Hughes' two boys both played at Boston University. So just telling you, Tony, they had inside intel on this guy. They knew everything that made him tick, and the coaching staff responded to the intel they got from upper management. So they did let Lane Hudson play, and they were smart to do that.
Who's going to win round two? Go all the way with BetWay and get a free bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Pierre, going into the season, when we take a look at the Canadiens lines or players, they had Suzuki, they had Caulfield, they had Slafkovsky, they had Doc. And then most people figured it would be Laine and Newhook. And Laine got hurt in the preseason.
Yep.
So at that point, you're looking for someone else. And you're saying, all right, they need another winger. Most people probably would have thought that other winger was going to be Josh Anderson, who 6 years prior had scored 27 in Columbus. And 2 years prior had scored 21 with the Canadiens. Instead, Marty St. looked at Anderson, who had a very difficult year the year before this past season, a year ago, struggled, probably put pressure on himself. Nothing was going in, put pressure on himself to put points. And Marty St. Louis said, you know what? I'm going to change his role. And he put him with Dvorak and Gallagher, and he kept them together pretty much all season, Pierre.
Yep.
And he put him on the penalty kill for the, I don't know if he was playing there at any point with Columbus. Pierre, you could tell me. I don't remember, to tell you the truth. But it looked like he gave him new responsibilities, and Anderson embraced them. Talk to me about St. Louis' decision to take a look at Anderson, who scored 21 a couple of years ago, 27 6 years ago, was looking for a winger for his top two lines and said, no. I'm going to give him a role instead. He'll be better. And how Anderson responded.
I thought it was brilliant. I really did. And the biggest thing about when you recreate a player's role is the player accepting it. So the brilliance of the coach is saying, I got a guy here that I think I can cultivate, and I think he'll accept his role. And if he does, he'll make us a 3-line team and probably a 4-line team, because I think they did the very same thing with Jake Evans, to be totally fair. They had two guys that had massive buy-in, Jake Evans and Anderson. So that's creativity by the coach, and it's also a credit to the players, because more times than not, when you give out those role reversals that don't include a lot of offensive talk, players don't want to accept that because it affects them in the pocketbook. But in this case, the players said, you know what? Love it. Proud to be part of this, and I want to be part of something successful. I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think Marty deserves a lot of credit for that. That's one of those where, Tony, somebody like you that really is close to it and passionate about it, you would pay attention to that. Other people that are on the periphery, they wouldn't pay attention to that very much.
Yeah. Pierre, a year ago, a lot of members of the media, maybe even fans, thought that Cole Caulfield was going to pick up more than, I think it was the 28 that he had scored. He just scored 37 this past season, by the way. But Marty St. Louis told members of the media on several occasions, we're helping Cole become an all-around player. We're trying to make him become a complete player. We're working on his game so that he plays more of a 200-foot game instead of a blue line in game. And we've also seen videos of Marty St. Louis actually telling Cole Caulfield how to position himself on the power play, how to move, how to get open, when to shoot, how to shoot. List goes on and on. I think that if we take a look at out of all the work that he's done with individuals, for me, the work that he did with Caulfield is probably some of Marty St. Louis' best work.
It's the masterful stroke of undersell and over-deliver. Undersell and over-deliver. And by doing what he did at the beginning part of the season, talking about the coach, he took the pressure off the player and basically said, give us time to cultivate him. Give us time to make him better. One of the things that helped Cole a lot was playing with one of the more creative playmakers in the league, Nick Suzuki. I think you would agree.
Mm-hmm.
And Slafkovsky was, when he was moving his feet, which was in and out for good portions of the year, made a difference in that team too because of the way he can pile drive people at the point of attack and create room on the cycle. So there was a lot of stuff that you liked about what Montreal did, but in particular, how they dealt with Cole mentally and athletically really helped Cole a ton. Undersell, over-deliver.
I would imagine coaches, NHL coaches or coaches, head coaches in any sport, Pierre, who were former professional players, will always come across a player or two that they'll look at him and they'll say, you know what, he reminds me of me a little bit. I would imagine that Marty St. probably feels that way about Cole Caulfield. Very similar in stature, very similar in terms of having a hunger to score goals. And I would imagine it's a project that he took probably a little bit more seriously than others, or wanted to help him out probably a little bit more so than just your average Joe, because, and that probably doesn't sound right, by the way, because I'm sure he wants to help everyone, right? But I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Necessity
is the mother of all invention. He needs that player to score. So he's not only helping the player, he's helping himself.
Yeah, and he's helping himself. Yeah,
he's helping himself. But no, you're right. Everything you just said there was so spot on. And Tony, like I watched Marty, when he played at University of Vermont. Not a lot of people can say they did that unless they were UVM guys. I saw Marty toil in the minor leagues before he got an opportunity. I saw Marty, start in Tampa and how hard it was for all those guys, not just Marty. And I was part of the committee that voted him into the Hall of Fame. So I've seen all these different parts of his life and his career. And I would just tell you this, the thing that separates him from a lot of people, he knows it's not just one path to the NHL. Everybody's path is different. And that's one of the things that makes him a really good coach, because his path was way more difficult than Vinny Lecavalier's path. His path was way more difficult than Cole Caulfield's path. And so he understands the trials and tribulations. And I think that's one of the things that really works for him.
I want to take this opportunity now to talk about a very exclusive event, a very amazing event, which is going to take place on Sunday, May 25th from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be different this way. If we can bring up the graphic, Shane Gaumont on Master Control. Yeah, it's your Cummings Center Foundation Sports Celebrity Evening for the first time, because for the last 20 plus years, it's been your sports celebrity breakfast. And this year, they're going to be honoring Carey Price. VIP cocktail, meet and greet, fireside chat with Carey and other Montreal Canadiens players at the Gilbert Conference Center, supporting seniors' mental health, and well-being at the Cummings Center. And tickets are on sale now for $360. And it's going to be an amazing event. I can tell you that also in attendance will be Paul Byron, Marco Scandella, goaltender Yaniv Peretz, and several others as well. Michael Farber will be there as a main interviewer. The Sick Podcast will be there. We will be there live, and we will be doing our show. There's going to be so many great online auctions, 60 prizes ranging from a Habs game in the Delmar Loge, signed Carey Price memorabilia, certificates to Montreal's top restaurants, travel packages, art, sports memorabilia, barbecues, and more. Going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm going to give you the link to purchase tickets. Limited quantities available. And the link is cjcsfoundation.crowdchange.ca. cjcsfoundation.crowdchange.ca. It's going to be an amazing event on Sunday, May 25th, 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., honoring Carey Price. Tickets, limited quantities available. Jump on them now.
Hey, Tony, yeah. As you're talking about that, is that in memorial of Harold Cummings?
I'm not sure. I'm embarrassed to say that I'm not sure, but it would make sense to me.
The only reason I ask is because I used to be Harold Cummings' caddy when he played golf.
Oh, wow. Isn't that something?
He was an amazing man. He was always so funny at the golf course. He used to come up to Trauma, and I'd carry his bag around. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the architects behind this event is, I think, a gentleman that you know very well, Mike Wagan.
Yes.
His family knows the McGuires very well, and they have a lot of good things to say about Sally, by the way. Just thought you would know that. All right. Let's get back to the report card if we can. And so helping Caulfield become a complete player. And we talked about Pierre improving of the defensive system. Now, on a previous podcast, probably about a month ago, you also gave credit to Roger Grillo for this, Pierre.
We did.
Yeah. And he's a guy that, when you're not behind the bench and you're the eyes in the sky, there's not too many people that give you credit because it's easy to be forgotten, Pierre. But I would imagine that at one point you've been the eyes in the sky before, or you've worked with the gentlemen who have been. It's extremely important.
I'm going to tell you this. When I was coaching in Hartford, we had a really small staff. We didn't have a big budget. And the late Jimmy Roberts had coached our minor league team, and he was out of work. And I called Jimmy up, and I said, Jimmy, I really need you to come and help me out. He lived in Springfield, Massachusetts, which was about 20 minutes away from our rink. And I said, I don't need you to do anything except come to the home games and just report down in between periods, and we'll get you some money for that. And he goes, Pierre, I'll do it for free. I want to do it. I said, Jimmy, that means so much to me. And I can tell you right now, having Jimmy around, people will not believe this, but from one year to the next, we cut 82 goals against in 1 year.
Wow.
Jimmy was a huge help. And, I was proud of the systems that we put in place, and we did it with a lot of injured goalies. Everybody said, oh, you did it with Sean Burke. No, we didn't. We didn't, because Sean got hurt and didn't finish the last 40 games of the year. But those people matter so much, and that's why when I saw this happening, I definitely gave Roger credit, Roger Grillo, because I've known Roger. I watched Roger coach at UVM. I watched Roger coach at Brown. I know he's part of New England hockey for USA hockey for a long time. He's a smart hockey guy. Doesn't have any NHL experience, but he understands tactics.
Yes.
And now he does have NHL experience.
Well, Pierre, one of the things that people looked at with Marty St. Louis staff and said, all right, you know what? Marty's no doubt a modern mind. He's a great offensive mind. He's got a lot of offensive concepts, but there's probably missing a defensive tactician on that bench. In your opinion, they have that defensive tactician, but he's the eyes from the sky. Is Roger Grillo?
I think so. Absolutely. And I also think when you have somebody like that, it keeps practices fresh. You don't want everything to be so insular that practices are mundane and players don't get better. Like, oh my gosh, we're doing that regroup drill again. We're doing that reload on the power play entry again. So
Pierre, we'll finish this off with, and we'll finish it here with, is there anything that you'd like to add that's obviously didn't make its way on the list? There's only so much stuff I could put on the list. Yes or no? And if A+ is your highest grade, and if you dock a point for something, you go down to A, and dock another point, you go down to A-, you know the drill. Is there anything you'd like to add? And in the end, what is your report card grade for Marty St. Louis?
One thing I'd like to add is dealing with the media.
All good one.
I think in that marketplace in particular, it's really a difficult task.
Yeah.
And I thought Marty, as the season went along, both in French and in English, did a magnificent job communicating the organizational message to the media. He didn't overpromise. He didn't hold players accountable by yelling and screaming at them. He did it the right way. So I really respect what he did with the media. So I give him an A+ on that. But if you were to ask me to grade him on...
Can I just share a quick story on that?
Sure, yeah.
Jeremy Filosa has been in the sports media business for probably about 25 years. He's a good friend of mine, and he does a lot of reporting duties for 98.5 FM Cogeco. He went up to Marty St. Louis at the end of the season, and I'm repeating what Jeremy actually tweeted. He went up to him at the end of the season. He pulled him aside after Marty St. Louis spoke to the media for the last time going into this offseason, and he thanked Marty. He thanked Marty for his collaborations this year. And he said, Marty, I want to let you know, you were absolutely fantastic in both languages. You didn't lose patience, and you understood our job. And it wasn't always easy. And there's probably days that you probably weren't tempted or probably didn't feel like you were up to it. But you understood our job, and you were very, very cooperative. And for that, I want to thank you. And Jeremy added that he covered Marty St. Louis when Marty was a player. And he had his doubts as to how good Marty was going to be with the media, because Marty didn't always like seeing the media in the locker room.
No.
And it wasn't always easy with Marty and the media when Marty was a player. But Jeremy thanked him for that. And I'm happy that you brought that up. But I wanted to add that Jeremy took time out of his day to go up to Marty and say, Marty, thank you. Because you know what? You understood that we had a job to do too. And sometimes there were some good questions. Sometimes maybe not so good questions. Sometimes you probably felt like it. And probably many days you didn't. But you always gave us time of day. And you always gave us that great quote. And we thank you for that.
What an awesome story. Cool. Thank you for piggybacking on mine. That really means a lot. And it gives me a different vision too, because I watch every game because I work with you proudly. And also I read the French and the English part of it because I care about the franchise. And I thought probably 95% of the time he was spot on. You know, he was transparent, he was fair, and he didn't bully his players in the media, which in that marketplace can be very dangerous. We've seen other coaches do that there. I'm so glad you brought that up, because there were days, Pierre, and it's easy for me here behind the microphone to say he's got to be tougher with some of these guys, or he's got to bench some of these guys, or he's got to sit these guys, or he's got to scratch them. Yeah. Some other coaches did that with some of their teams, Pierre, and they lost their guys, and they lost their room, and they lost their team. And by the way, they ended up losing their job. Marty St. Louis, he had at no point did he ever lose a guy, his team, a locker room, nothing. Even though maybe some guys weren't happy with their playing time, he never lost that room. No, you know what? That's a Bowman higher education thing too. There's going to be 5 guys in your team that love you. There's going to be 5 guys in your team that hate you. It's the 10 guys in the middle that you can't get too close to the guys that hate you. You got to cultivate those 10 guys. There are 5 that love you. There are 5 that hate you. It's the 10 in the middle. You got to make sure they're on the right side. That was Scotty's thing, and he learned that from Toe Blake.
Give me your grade, Pierre.
Pardon me?
Give me your grade for Marty St. Louis.
An A.
Yeah.
An A. And I'll tell you why he loses a half a point.
Yeah.
Not a full point. He loses a half a point. There were times, especially at the start of the year, and you've already touched on it with your list, I was like, that defensive zone system's not working. And it's not so much in their own zone. It's in the neutral zone. And they refused to identify that. They did. And I talked to you about it on the air numerous times. And then finally you started to see they started to tighten up, and almost came together when Roger Grillo got there as a senior advisor. It almost started to come together at the same time. And the other one, Tony, why I give him a half a point off, I thought they waited too long for Lane to be hit on the first power play.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to give him half a point up. We could take a couple of points off, but he did all of this without a second line.
Oh, yeah.
He did all of this without a second line. And you know what? So I think the fairest grade is an A. And by the way, if you end up getting an A, that puts you in contention for Coach of the Year, and that's exactly where he belongs, because he is a candidate, along with Scott Arniel, of course, of the Winnipeg Jets, and Spencer Carberry of the Washington Capitals. We'll find out who wins that award next month. But for Pierre McGuire, I'm Tony Marinaro, an A for Montreal Canadiens head coach Marty St. Louis. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. Special thanks to all of our sponsors, to BetWay, to Fruiterie Dillard, to Bittt, to Tibi, to Playground, and to Energy Transportation Group. Thank you very much. Once again, for the Sports Celebrity Evening on Sunday, May 25th from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., check out cjcsfoundation.crowdchange.ca to purchase your tickets this year, honoring Carey Price, former NHLers, and maybe some current additions. Other team will be added to the evening. Check it out. Tickets on sale now. Limited quantities, supporting seniors' mental health and well-being at the Cummings Center. For Shane Gaumont and Master Control, thanks everyone for watching. Once again, it was pre-recorded for those who missed me saying it at the beginning of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed tonight's action of the NHL playoffs. I'm Marinaro. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. La Vida TB, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.